Hello everyone. So it's Mental Health Day and I wanted to chat about this year's theme, which is access to mental health services and support during emergencies, disasters, and crisis. You might be thinking, why focus on that? Look at everything that's happened, from the global pandemic to local crisis and global crisis that's actually happening right now. There is one thing that we consistently overlook, and that is the mental toll on the people running toward the disaster. The frontliners, volunteers, disaster relief workers, they all seem so strong, so we are so quick to assume as a society, they can handle it. They're used to it. Joke. They're human. Rakyat biasa, just like us. They're right on the front lines of trauma though. Which brings me to this important term, vicarious trauma. So, vicarious trauma is basically the cost of caring. It's the emotional and psychological residue that builds up from repeatedly hearing about or witnessing other people suffering. Now, let's get real for a second. Think about the nurses you blast your head off to when the doctors aren't around, or the firefighters burnt out from removing people away from harm only to be criticized that they haven't done enough or haven't pulled enough people from that harm. Oh, and even the participants of the Global Sumut Flotilla. These people are volunteers. They're activists, doctors, everyday people who were on a humanitarian mission to deliver aid. Baby formula, food aid. And now we often see two reactions online. We either glorify them as fearless heroes, or, strangely enough, criticize them for making it about themselves when they speak out. Haven't you all think about the bigger picture? They went through a terrifying real-life ordeal by being taken, held against, violated, and while processing that threat to their safety. That's direct trauma. But on top of that, they're also carrying the weight of the very crisis they were trying to highlight. The reason they got on that boat in the first place. That's the vicarious part. They're exposed to and absorbing the pain of the people they were trying to help, all while dealing with their own nightmare. And when they speak out with passion or anger or sadness, it's not for clout. It's the raw reaction of someone holding two types of trauma at once. Just to be clear, nothing can overshadow the trauma of victims of maniacal authoritarian oppression. What happened to the flotilla volunteers was about something else. They weren't claiming to be heroes, and in their own words, they were just regular people proving a point that the IOF's violence doesn't discriminate based on the strength of your passport or the status of who you are in your country. So, cut them some slack. They really were trying their best. And this vicarious trauma, it doesn't just happen to them. It happens to therapists who listens to stories of their struggles, to journalists covering these conflict zones. We're not invisible either, so yup, even the helpers need help. So instead of adding fuel to the fire, maybe we can all try to sprinkle in a little bit more empathy. Now let's talk about how we as a society react, especially online, which leads to a perfect segue into digital empathy. So digital empathy is about consciously choosing to be understanding and compassionate in our online spaces. It's pausing before we type and thinking before we publish that comment in that comment section, considering the person behind the post. And why does this matter? It's because budi bahasa budaya kita. It's part of our culture to be cautious. When we see a flotilla participant share a difficult experience, or just generally anyone sharing their own struggles, digital empathy means pausing before we accuse them of being dramatic or being attention-seeking. It's recognizing that we're seeing someone process a very real trauma in public, and that is something very courageous to do. It's not easy. And when we remain in a place of tak follow berita or stay quiet online just to maintain our aura points, we don't just become desensitized. We fall into two dangerous traps: groupthink and the individuation. So, That Sigma facade of being unbothered and going with the hateful crowd, bestie, it's not helping. Get educated, let yourself feel for the people struggling, because it's so important to remember that these people doing these phenomenal, heroic things are at their very core just ordinary human beings. They deserve to be seen, supported, and treated with kindness, not just when they're saving lives, but when they're struggling as well. Happy Mental Health Awareness Day. Let's strive for a global society rooted in kindness and a world both online and off, free from oppression and ostracization. Free Palestine.